Back in the day, when it came to Nintendo's intellectual property, they were quite careful when it came to offshoring a lot of their IPs to other developers, especially third-party. Stuff like Hotel Mario and the Legend of Zelda CDI games, for example. But ever since the avenue of the Wii U, they've been a lot more frivolous with that. So a lot of games like Fire Emblem Warriors, for example, really got a lot of success. And it was quite a solid game. Now, grab that formula that Fire Emblem Warriors had and apply that to the Fire Emblem universe, and you have yourself Fire Emblem Warriors for the Nintendo Switch and the new Nintendo 3DS. Pretty standard run-of-the-mill stuff we have here. If you're going into a Musou game or a Warriors game, you know exactly what to expect. A massive, crazy power fantasy where you're fighting multiple enemies, generals, and grunts all at once. And it's a fairly coherent, solid experience, especially with Omega Force, the developer. They've been developing these games for God knows how long. When it comes to Fire Emblem Warriors, it's very similar to what you'd expect with Fire Emblem Fates. Where you have everyone coming together in this one universe, trying to make sense of where they are, what they're doing, and it features a lot of characters from previous Fire Emblem games, most notably some of the recent ones, such as Fates, Awakening, even characters from Shadows of Valentia, which came out earlier this year. Now, the visuals are great, they're fantastic, especially just the fact that they've gotten it working really well on the Nintendo Switch, undocked or docked. As well as the Nintendo 3DS, I'm surprised they managed to get as much power out of the 3DS as they possibly could. Works really well, very minimal downtime or frame rate loss as well, so that's fantastic. The gameplay itself is also fairly good too. Takes a lot of, derives a lot of gimmicks from the Fire Emblem universe, such as adhering to the weapons and magic trinities. So when you fight certain specific enemies, aside from maybe having to hit them a little bit more or more increasing guards when you're fighting against disadvantageous weapon setups, you'll find that there really isn't much bearing when it comes to that. Some of the other gimmicks involve, like utilizing master seals and leveling up your character. Also permadeath as well. So the game does give you a choice whether or not to use it, so it's not as jarring as it can be. So there are casual modes, there are permadeath. Some of the issues that I did find, especially when it comes to the character selection, is the amount of diversity involved. Now, when it comes to a Fire Emblem game, we're all going to expect a hell of a lot of Lord-class characters. There was no avoiding that whatsoever. But I'm actually kind of disappointed to see that they took a lot of and derived a lot of characters from the Fire Emblem Fates and the Awakening universes, which is a bit of a shame because there's a lot of universes that they can kind of derive a lot of characters from. There's only a handful from Shadow Dragon, one character from Shadows of Valentia, and no Ike from no representation from Path of Radiance, so or even Sacred Stones. So just the fact that there's so many characters that they could derive from each Fire Emblem game, and they only managed to, I guess, stick to just a couple fan favorites, which is a bit of a shame. There's a lot of missed opportunity there, but aside from that, the game remains a fairly solid experience. If you're an old-time fan, you're going to be disappointed with the character diversity and some other facets of the game, but coming into it, if you're a recent Fire Emblem fan, or if you play Musou, it is still a damn solid game, and I highly recommend you give it a check.